This is the Solid Signal podcast for the week of June 3rd, 2019. We're into June. Technically, it is not summer yet. Technically, summer doesn't begin until June 20th or 21st. It changes every year. But the topic of this podcast, however, is summer movie season already over? And I think that you could actually make an argument that way. I think that there was one movie that really stood out this year, and it's going to be Avengers Endgame. And it's already come and kind of gone. So does that mean that movies are over? Maybe. Maybe it does. Because here's the truth of it now. The average person goes to 3 to 4 movies per year. So let's just say they go to one Marvel movie, one Star Wars movie, and one Disney movie, which I'm pointing out those 3 because they all come from the same corporate parent. And that's kind of evidence that Disney has been trying to take over and has succeeded in taking over moviegoing. That doesn't leave a lot of room for other movies that might just pop up. Those smaller independent films tend to migrate more toward the streaming channels, and although streaming is extremely important, we're talking about movie theaters right now in the traditional summer movie season. Avengers Endgame was hands down the tentpole of the year. The only other movie that could come even close to it, I think, is Star Wars Episode 9, and there's so much fatigue at this point from Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi, which is such a polarizing film. You can go back and look at articles I wrote on the Solid Signal blog on the subject. And I think that it tarnished the commerciality of the Star Wars universe in such a fundamental way that people aren't looking forward to Episode 9 the way that they should. So Avengers Endgame is it. Oh, there have been other movies that have come out even in the last month. Rocketman is doing very well. Aladdin is doing very well. And there are movies still to come. If you look at the coming months, there are still some action movies that are still to come. Fast and Furious presents Hobbs and Shaw. Yeah, that's what they're calling that. Has a good chance. And there's the Disney remake of The Lion King, which I would call completely unnecessary and a total cash grab. But who knows, it could actually be good. I don't know. Aladdin seems to be doing pretty well, as I said before. But the super blockbuster movie has probably all come and gone. And I'm going to tell you that's probably not a bad thing. If summer movie season is going to succeed, then it's going to open up some room for some smaller movies that might have in some other way or some other time gone straight to streaming, but might get some attention this way. There's a great little movie coming out, at least I think it's going to be a great little movie, called Yesterday. It looks very interesting, and it's a pretty silly conceit. Guy wakes up in some alternate universe and he's the only one who remembers Beatles songs. Yeah, this is a bit of a cash grab to try to get younger people interested in Beatles music, and absolutely the people who own the Beatles catalog have been deeply involved in this movie, but it could be cute and it could be sweet, and I think that it could raise a little bit of awareness of not just the music, but also of the kind of people who globally like this music. There's a very diverse cast, and I think that's a good thing. There are also other movies to consider, like Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. If you're a little bit older, you probably have been watching Tarantino's career since the early 90s, and you're looking forward to a film like this, even though it seems like his most recent films have not risen up to the level of Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs and earlier successes. This one still has a lot of interest because it seems to be being done with such attention to detail of the world of 1969 in which it is set. Just that attention to detail is enough to get a lot of people into the theaters who are maybe a little bit out of the normal demographic. But when it comes to popcorn time, summertime, I'm going to propose that at the end of the season, that theater owners are probably going to be pretty unhappy. They're going to see seats declining. They're going to see not as many crowds coming in. And this may create, finally, some meaningful change in the movie theater kind of industry. An industry which, by the way, I think has needed it for a very, very long time. I wouldn't be surprised to see Disney buying one of the major theater chains, AMC or Regal or one of those, because this is the perfect time for it. The government seems to be completely okay with large mega mergers, and and media companies becoming larger and larger. And I'm not going to comment on that other than to say that this is a good time for it. So you could say that this is, you see this happening, or you could see more theaters closing, or you could see more of a trend that some theaters have started to do of showing classic films in addition to their regular films to try to get some people who never saw it on the big screen to see it again, especially the really, you see the super, super high echelon films, The Godfather, for example, being shown on the big screen could still be quite a draw for a lot of people. I have seen in the last year or two just more and more of a movement toward food and drink service in theaters, toward full service, it becoming a long-time destination, not just show up for a movie, get badly priced popcorn and leave. That's good, and it needs to continue. Overall, I think that this might be just the kind of shock that the theater community needs to finally get moving and provide a really excellent experience, because we're not seeing, as we've seen in past years, just blockbuster after blockbuster after blockbuster. We saw the one, Avengers Endgame, and nothing is going to compete with that. This is a time to be thinking about this if you're a theater owner, and if you're not a theater owner, if you're just a regular theater goer, it's a great time to stay home and enjoy the content that's available over streaming and on DirecTV satellite. There has never been a better time to watch television, no question about it. The sheer amount of super high-quality content out there is amazing. It would be impossible to watch all of it, and you just have to look for the things that are interesting to you to see what's actually going to be out there for you. And whether it's comfort food TV, really dynamic dramas, or whatever, this is the time. Television is alive and well at the same time that movie theaters continually tend to decay. That's the real message here, and that's where I will leave it this week for the Solid Signal podcast. I will talk to you again next week.